Support the channel this Christmas. Click the link in the description. This podcast is brought to you in association with Tahitian Treez.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Another Round. We've got a packed show today. We've got a big fight weekend coming up this weekend, and we've had some amazing fights already. We're going to go over the massive fight between Dillian Whyte and Franklin. We're also going to cover the goings-on between Tysonfury, Derek Chisora and his next moves, and then also covering the massive fight this weekend between Josh Warrington and Lopez, and Ebony Bridges on the undercard as well. I am myself, Mike Thomas, and I'm with my co-host Hamza Hanif as usual. How's it going, my friend? I love the Christmas jumper.
Thank you very much. I'll see if I can represent Father Christmas himself.
I also had to represent. I really hope that by the time this goes out, we're not out and we're still in it.
No, dude, come on, man. We're going to beat the French. They're going to give up. They're going to capitulate.
Mate, all right. The good news is everyone expects us to lose. So the pressure's off. The pressure's off, right? So we've just got to give it our all. We've got to give it our all. But anyway.
Do you know what it is? I'm not a football fan, really. But I've been following the World Cup. And tell me if you agree or disagree with this assessment. From the way I see it, there's three teams really that could win this, in my opinion. We're one of them. France is another one. And I think Brazil is another one as well.
Brazil are out, mate.
Brazil out?
Yeah. Argentina scraped through on penalties. It wasn't...
Against Brazil?
No, Argentina scraped through against the Netherlands on penalties. It's been a great look. Let's not talk. It has been a great about politics. I'm not going to mention politics. I'm not going into politics. We never talk about politics. But this has been.
I know less about politics than I do about football. So let's stick to boxing.
If we're talking just purely on football, this has literally been the best World Cup I can ever remember.
Yeah,
in terms of...
purely as an observer of literally, because I know you were over in Qatar, for the
just got back. Yeah, that's why we've been a bit quiet. Sorry about that, guys. But
you've got a lovely tan, I must say. You've got a lovely tan there.
Not really. I'm kind of lighter, slightly less white than the wall, which is good. It was good. Had a great time, mate. It was really fun, and Again, we're not going to talk political, but I found 0 arrests. There was not one arrest from any England fans at all. And I don't know about the other teams, but I've not seen any trouble. There wasn't any fights. It was really weird just walking out after the game. There was 0 trouble. Everyone was polite. Everyone was saying please and thank you. Everyone was like letting everyone in. And it's just good vibes. Everyone's fans
are they good people, or what are the Qataris like?
Qataris are so nice. They're so friendly, so nice.
That's cool.
The Mexican fans were all out. They were the best fans. The Mexican fans were great. They were amazing. The Brazilian fans have been fantastic. The South American teams, they show up. Do you know what I mean? The South American teams,
they do.
Of England, but more because it's like a religion over there.
Yeah,
they're really into it.
I think it was Brazil versus South Korea. Yeah, and South Korea were definitely. I don't know. I'm not sure who they were playing at. I'm pretty sure it was Brazil. And they were getting absolutely trounced. And South Korea came out in the second half and they scored a goal, and it just cut to like a bar in South Korea, and the people were just going absolutely nuts. And I remember thinking, like, that's the magic of the World Cup right there. You know what I mean? Like just that sort of. Let's be honest. It brings everyone together.
Let's be honest, if England are losing and England score a goal, I'm going to go absolutely mental. I'll be flipping the table. I'll be jumping up and down. I'll be doing somersaults. I'll be doing everything, mate. And it's going to go off. If England win, it's going to go absolutely mental in England. It's going to go.
Tomorrow's going to be a big game. Tomorrow's going to be a big
And think about as well, you've got the rivalries between the best 3 players. You've got the 2 oldies with Messi and Ronaldo. The rivalry between Messi and Ronaldo, and then you've got Mbappe, who's like the young gun coming through. Anyway, I know there's probably a lot of people not interested in football, so we'll cut it short there. But anyway, mate, you've just come back. Well, not just come back, but you went down to London. to see Dillian White and Franklin. How was the trip? What was the vibes? You met Joshua, didn't you? You met
yes,
Alan the Savage Babbage, mate.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Yeah.
The whole event, everything, mate.
Yeah. No, honestly, it was an arduous trip down because the UK was on some rail strikes, so I ended up having to my train got cancelled and I had to like drive the whole way. So it was a bit of a nightmare getting down there. You know what it's like when you've driven for like 6-7 hours. You're tired. You're a bit like I just kind of want to sleep. But bro, one thing I will say about Matchroom, I've been to 2 Matchroom events like now so far, like this year, and mate, they've been off the chain in the way that the production and everything goes into it. The hospitality side of it is like second to none. And I'm not even getting paid any money to say that. It's just literally that's just my experience.
No, I know. That's the thing. Eddie Hearn's getting such a lot of stick. He's getting he's getting a lot of he's getting it right now. But he really does put on. One thing you can't say about Eddie Hearn is he doesn't put a bad card on. Do you know what I mean? He puts a good card on, and he puts effort and thought into who's on the undercard. There's a lot, there's a lot, and I'm going to put it out there. There's a lot in America where they just put the main event on, and then you just put some dross on the undercard, and it's not really, you're not really bothered about it.
And it sucks as well because like it sucks if you're in the arena because if you go to a boxing event, you're in the arena for hours and hours while you're waiting for people to walk out. You're waiting for for all these types of things. And if you're just watching pure crap fights, it's no fun at all, And it's the same with pay-per-view as well. Like if you're paying pay-per-view, you don't want to just pay for one fight because you feel like you've been robbed. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to just pay for the main event. You want a whole night of boxing. Like that's what really brings value for money.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, talking of that, you were ringside, and I was just going to ask you about the undercard as well. Unless you wanted to say anything else first before that.
No. Like, I was ringside. I was very lucky to be ringside. And it was a great night. One thing I was a little bit disappointed with, I was very excited to see Richards versus Bolotniks, and that dropped off the card, and it didn't get announced. And I think the reason it didn't get announced is because they didn't have a replacement fight for it, so they just kind of quietly pushed it off the card. I'm not even sure. I even Googled to try to find out why, and there's just nothing on why that fight got pulled. Yeah, I couldn't find any info on that at all. The fights were great, man. Like the fights really gelled. I mean, Gorman versus Wardley was probably one of the best fights I've seen all year. Dude, like just there's something about Fabio Wardley because he has like no amateur background at all. Like he literally came through fighting like unlicensed fights and like really like regional low level fights. And usually those types of fighters have a ceiling, and like Fabio Wardley's like smashed through that ceiling, and it's great to see. And to be honest with you,
what I love about Fabio Wardley, and I'll let you carry on, is that number one, he's very mild mannered. He's got quite a quiet voice. Like he's from Ipswich, right? And he has quite a kind of middle of the road, quiet kind of English accent. And then he comes in and he's got a lot of dog in him. Yeah, in him, he's just got a lot of dog in him that you don't
he does
necessarily expect, but he brings it out. And
I'm so happy that you said that as well, because in the second round of that fight, Nathan Gorman smashed Fabio Wardley's nose in, right, and it was very visual. Like it was like his nose was fucked, and then he dropped Gorman after that. He dropped Gorman and he stood over him and screamed, like, and it was like it was just a moment like where it was like, whoa, like what is this guy made of? You know what I mean? And he obviously went on to win in good fashion, and it was such an exciting fight. Like watching it ringside, I think Gorman's corner did the right thing. They threw the towel in, and I think that was the right move because he'd been dropped, I think, 2 or 3 times. He was being hurt, and Fabio Wardley was just coming like a freight train. He just wasn't stopping. Like it was almost like he was just going up through the gears. And eventually Gorman was going to get caught with something and get put to sleep. So it was great corner work, and it was a really, really exciting fight as well. It really was. And the main event as well, man. The main event did not disappoint.
Yeah,
I've got to say one thing.
One thing before that, mate. You watched
Yeah,
Daniel Dubois as well. Was that on the undercard?
no.
Tyson Fury. Yeah. Sorry. Carry on.
That was
Carry
that
on.
was on the Fury. I would have loved to have seen that one because that was a
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
classic fight. But
Yeah.
we'll talk about that in a second.
Go on. Carry on.
But yeah, the actual main event itself, like. One thing I will say about Dillian Whyte, because I think he's up and down a little bit in terms of performances, but one thing I will say about him, I love his walkouts, and like I'm so happy that I got to see his walkout live because it is class. The whole howling and everything like that.
And just like
it's just
thing. I love it.
It's crazy how much like a wolf he sounds as well. It's bizarre, but he sort of like really invests a lot of himself in that walkout, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
It was a, you know what it is? Like, it's weird because I've seen a headline the day after the fight, and it was from the BBC, and it said, Dillian Whyte, it was something to do about how it was a really flat performance from Dillian Whyte. Now, I think I've watched the fight back, and I kind of get where that headline comes from. I don't think Whyte performed the way he probably trained for or the way that he wanted to, but it was at ringside. It didn't seem like a flat fight. It felt really exciting. Like they were going back and forth for 12 rounds, which is really hard for heavyweights to do, you know. And they were really, really, really throwing hard shots. Like there was times where there was times where Franklin was being hit and he was sagging against the ropes, and you're thinking, he's got him here, you know, a couple more, and he's got him, and he would just come back with something, he would just counter and come back with something, and that tended to be the ebb and flow of the fight. They would go back and forth. Whyte would hurt him a little bit, and then Franklin would respond with 4 or 5 punches. And Franklin just really impressed me, man. He came with this sort of mindset of like, you know, I'm gonna win this fight. And in my opinion, he did win the fight. You know, I remember because of where I was seated, I was actually seated right behind some of Franklin's family members. And we ended up talking after the fight. And you know, they were lovely. They were over from America, and you know, like they were literally the direct family members of his, so they were obviously really invested in the fight and everything like that. And you know, we were having a conversation about the fight, and I said, listen, like I've really, really been impressed by Franklin. Like, it's so easy to come in this situation, take a few hard shots, and just think, right, I'm going to roll over and collect the paycheck. And in my view, watching it live, I had Franklin up by 3 rounds. And I expressed that to them. I remember saying to them, I was like, listen, like, I think he won that fight, and I think what happened was unfair. I think the judges were probably swayed by the crowd, because it was a really, really loud sort of crowd, and it felt like everybody in the building was there to see Dillian Whyte, you know? So it was like, there was like, maybe, I think Franklin maybe had a row of fans, and they were like people that he brought from America. But everybody left a Franklin fan. I've got to say, you know, like everybody left a Jermaine Franklin fan.
I'm glad you made that point, mate. Just to touch on it, because watching it on the TV, I think where they've said to go back to what you reiterate what you said earlier when you said, you know, it was a flat performance from Dillian Whyte. I think they've underestimated Franklin massively. I think he was, you know, they were expecting a big dirty knockout by Dillian Whyte. It didn't happen for him. Franklin was a lot more durable than people gave him credit for. They thought he was a Charles Martin 2.0, but you know, he came in with an undefeated record, and he came in to try and keep that, and that's how he came in and expected to beat Dillian Whyte, and he really did throw hell for leather with him. And I have to say, I think Franklin just won that by a couple of rounds.
I think so too. I think so too, and I think he should have got the decision. I think he won. I think he won clearly enough. It was a close fight, but I think he won clearly enough where he should have got the decision. And I think as well, there's something to be said, and I think this should be highlighted as well. I'm a huge huge Dillian Whyte fan,
Me
and that
too.
I have been for many, many years, and I know you have as well.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I was so excited to go down to watch this fight, and I hope I get the chance to go to another Dillian Whyte fight again. I think he's an amazing fighter.
Yeah.
But one thing has to be said, and there was a lot of antics before the fight, you know. I don't know if you saw the two fighters picking their gloves, but you know, there was an element where I don't know. Have you seen that? Have you seen that footage of the?
I don't know
two
what. It
fighters?
depends what you're gonna say. I'm waiting for you to.
No. So when the two fighters were selecting their gloves, like White's team were trying to like say that Franklin had used the gloves before, even though they had just literally pulled them out of the packet, you know. So it was like just gamesmanship. It was antics. It was like things to try to rattle White, you know. And like, you know, Dillian Whyte, he hangs around with some really big burly men, and they were all like kind of like up in Franklin's like face and like Salita's face, his promoter who handled himself with great class as well. And it was just, it's all just antics. It's all gamesmanship. It's all just like, it's all stuff before you get in the ring to let you know that we're boss and that this is our show and this is our town. And that's what they were kind of doing to him. They were trying to almost bully him. They were saying like, you can't fight in those gloves. You have to fight in these gloves, you know? And I just loved the way Franklin handled himself in that situation. You know, he never backed down. He never raised his voice. He held his own, but he did it in such a manner where he was very soft spoken. He just really impressed me by the way he sort of conducted himself. So,
Good.
And then for him to be in that kind of environment where he is away from home, he is on a hostile promoter's show, all the chips are against him, he's in an arena full of fans that aren't his, and for him to come out and put a performance like that in against Dillian Whyte, he's got my respect, and I'll be watching every Jermaine Franklin fight from now on for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm gonna have to look out for him now and look for him more in the future, and I think I'd like to see him fighting, you know. Now there's an up and coming heavyweight as well from America, Jared Anderson. I'd love to see Jared Anderson and him fight.
Yeah,
I think that would be a good.
That's a huge.
That would be a great fight. But moving on, well, we're moving on to the 3rd of December. It was Tyson Fury, Derek Chisora.
Yeah.
I just want to say as well a couple of things, because Tyson Fury got a lot of stick for choosing Derek Chisora. It's the 3rd time he's fought him. And I understand the fans' opinion and how they feel and how frustrated they are because they want to see him fight the big boys. But I also reflectively understand Tyson Fury's position as well. Because if you think about it, he's setting himself up for the biggest fight. Well, the biggest fight on paper is him versus Usyk for all the belts, for everything, right? So he knows that he's got that coming up, potentially, we think, in February, if all goes to plan. He doesn't want to take any risk in that position where he's going to fight somebody who's unknown, number one. He knows that he's fighting in the UK. He wants to fight somebody who's well known, who will draw the UK crowd. And he wants to fight somebody that the UK crowd is familiar with. And out of the choices that he had, I would have to say Derek Chisora is probably one of the best options that he had available to him. And I know that he's, you know, potentially going to fight the 3 big boys, which I would say left for him, which would be Joe Joyce, Anthony Joshua, and Usyk. And hopefully he'll fight Usyk next. But I just wanted to say, I think in his position, the way he's thinking is, whoever I fight, I'm going to give him a massive payday. So number one, it's got to be somebody that I kind of think deserves it, because I want them to retire making more money than they've ever made, right? And number two, he wants somebody who is going to be well known by the UK, that the UK crowd will come to at Tottenham Hotspur. So I kind of don't really have the same opinion that a lot of boxing fans do, that, oh yeah, he's just chosen Derek Chisora as an easy fight for him, because I respect Derek Chisora is in the way he's improved as a fighter. And it wasn't. Too. And so, I mean, you can talk about the fight. I didn't think it was the best fight in the world. It wasn't the most entertaining, but, you know, I think it was the right man won the fight in the end, and, you know, he's moved on. He's moved on. So
definitely. I think I totally agree. Do you know what it is? I think I was one of those fans as well, and I think sometimes you have to sort of assess yourself, because I was one of those fans who was very critical of the choosing of Derek Chisora. And it wasn't anything bad about Derek Chisora. I think he's a fantastic fighter. We've covered him pretty much from day one on this podcast, because we both have massive amounts of respect for him, and we always tune in when he fights, because he brings drama and he does bring war. Like, he's always going to be in an exciting fight.
I think that's another reason why he chose him too, because he's entertaining.
Yeah. The problem, and I totally agree with you as well. Like, me and you had this conversation prior to the fight, and I kind of like, I was like, as the fight crept closer and closer, the more sort of excited I became for the fight, and the more I was kind of like, oh my god, like, to be honest with you, I think this is going to be a good fight, and I think it's going to be, for all the reasons that you've just mentioned, a good opponent. The problem was, what actually happened in the fight was the core reason why boxing fans didn't want to see the fight, because it was not competitive. It wasn't sport, really, was it? It wasn't, because one man was just beating the shit out of another man. And that's not really what sport is. Sport is competition between two men. And and I understand that they're both heavyweights and, it's sport in that sense. But the reason boxing fans didn't want to see the fight at its core wasn't because he's going to fight Usyk next. There were all these other reasons, which are purely logical and are great reasons. People didn't want to see the fight because they thought it wasn't going to be competitive. And really, in all honesty, that's exactly what happened. It wasn't competitive. Derek Chisora didn't win a round. And he got beaten up. And let's be honest let's be real about this. He's getting punched in the face by the most dangerous heavyweight on the planet for 10 rounds. That's not good for your health. And I know that Derek Chisora is a warrior, and I know he's an adult and he can make his own decisions, and he was cleared by a board to fight and everything like that. But it's still not a good look when, there were times where, Derek Chisora looked really sort of out of ideas and ponderous and slow of foot. And I just think that ultimately the reason why this fight wasn't a good matchup, and I think the reason why sort of Fury kind of scored a bit of an own goal with this one, is because I think he increased his pay-per-view price point at the wrong time. He charging people £26 to watch a fight.
I didn't know that. See, I didn't see that side of it. Yeah, because I didn't see the price, because I got it free over here.
So did I. No, I'm kidding. I paid. No, but yeah. So he increased his pay-per-view point to £26 or £27 or whatever it was, and in the middle of a cost of living crisis, and he boxed in the middle of a cost of living crisis, and to an opponent that we'd already seen him box twice and beat twice convincingly. And second of all, it just wasn't competitive, and we want to see competitive fights. I understand that Tyson Fury did what was right for Tyson Fury, in the sense of, I'm gonna fight a guy who the public knows, so it'll do relatively well. The reason I referred to the fight as an own goal is because I think boxing fans kind of bucked against it so hard. I think it's going to do shocking numbers on pay-per-view.
Oh yeah. Mate, you made some excellent points that I didn't consider being over here in my ignorant self over in America. You know what I mean? I didn't consider the cost of living crisis, the fact that he put it up apparently higher than it normally was. And Tyson Fury is out of touch himself. You know what I mean? He's got more money than God right now. And I feel like he's out of touch as well. So he probably was insensitive to...
And he's like, I want to give Derek Chisora a final payday, but it's like, you're not a charity foundation, right? And you're not giving him that payday. You're not like Tyson Fury. You're not pulling your money out of your pocket and you're asking us to do that for you.
You're right. You're right. You're right, mate.
So don't be so ignorant. And I say this with all due respect. And I know for a fact that Tyson Fury would rip my head off and shit down my throat if he wanted to. He's a giant man. He's a giant, scary man.
Head,
But honesty is honesty. And there was a reason why Tyson Fury was reacting the way that he was whenever people questioned the legitimacy of Derek Chisora as an opponent. There was a reason why he was getting so bent out of shape about it. And it's because in his mind and in his heart, he knew that this was going to be a walk in the park, an easy payday. And that's what it worked out. And I'm just glad that I hope that Derek Chisora got taken care of. Like payment wise, you got paid well for it, but ultimately it was a non-competitive fight. It played out the way that we all predicted, and yeah, I think Tyson Fury, I want to end on this note. I think Tyson Fury is the greatest heavyweight of this era, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in some of the more exciting matchups that await him. Joyce, Joshua, Usyk. He needs to fight those three guys in whatever order. I'll leave that up to him, but he needs to fight those three guys.
It was interesting. No, well points made. Good points made. It was interesting after the fight to see him, go into face to face with Usyk. Usyk was there at the fight.
Yeah.
Afterwards, came up to him, and it was amazing to see the size difference. Number one, it's not something
huge difference.
Yeah, it was a lot bigger than I actually realized. And he was like, "You're an ugly little rabbit with rabbit teeth," and he was like "I'm gonna kill you." And I just thought, it was reminiscent of what he did to Deontay Wilder when everyone didn't believe he was going to beat Deontay Wilder. And when he did that, it made me think, man, Usyk's got a big fight. He's going to have his hands full. Few minutes of this round, and they remember the last few minutes of the round. And the middle round, sometimes they'll remember it if they're amazing, but otherwise they're just scoring off what they remember, what they see. So if you finish the round, like when Tyson Fury got knocked down and came back and won the round in the 12th round, was it, against Deontay Wilder, where he just put him on the front foot and he was on the front foot and just smashing him, pummeling him, and Wilder was on the ropes. That is what the judges will see.
That's what sticks in their mind. That's the last thing that they see is you forcing the pace and you pushing the other guy back. So that's what they score for. And coaches know this, and they always tell their fighters to push for the last 30 seconds and steal the round. I think it's a real... Who have you got in that fight? Usyk? Because I think that's the fight that's going to happen next. It looks like that's the fight that's going to happen next. It looks like it's really close. It looks like both guys want it. I'm
saying Fury. I'm saying Fury all day.
He could fight Joyce. He could fight somebody who, and he's already beaten Joyce before. So it's like if he fought Joyce again, he knows I can beat this guy. But why else would he be ringside? I don't see that in him. I don't see.
No, I know what you're saying. I don't think he's afraid. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's afraid. I think he's a little bit mad. I think anyone that's like at that level, boxing has to be a little bit nuts. I think Tyson Fury's a little bit nuts. I think Usyk's a little bit nuts. I think
you have to have crazy self-belief as well. You have to have insane self-belief. You have to believe that you are the man. Like that's often why you see a lot of fighters come across as really arrogant. They're not. They just believe in themselves so fucking much. Yeah, exactly.
Confidence. And
I'm gonna go Usyk.
Cool.
I just think he's like.
I'll bet on it. I'll put a bet on it right now.
I'll bet on it. Yeah, definitely.
I see Fury winning this. Even if he doesn't get the knockout, I think he wins.
Okay.
I think Usyk.
I can see how Fury can win this fight. And in fact, I will say this: I think Fury has more ways to win than Usyk does, because I don't think Usyk can knock Fury out. But I think Fury can knock Usyk out, and I think Fury can beat him on points. Well, I think the only way for Usyk to win is by points. I think Fury's definitely got the best chance out of if you're comparing Joshua and Fury, I think Fury's definitely got the best, because he's got the better boxing brain, hasn't he? So it's like, Yeah,
and he's been tested as well, like his chin and everything. But anyway, we shall see. We can agree to disagree, mate. I'm excited, and hopefully it happens in February. This fight as well, a man from my hometown, Josh Warrington, and he's fighting he looks kind of eager, the Mexican Lopez. I'm excited for this. It's kind of like a homecoming fight. He needs it. Josh Warrington needs a good victory, really. He needs it. So it's going to be a good one. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's picked a really tough opponent in Lopez. Such a tough pick of an opponent for Warrington. And I think it kind of shows you where Warrington's head's at as well, because he's not sort of cherry picking easy fights. You know, he's fighting top guys. You know, Lopez was in a really good fight with Isaac Lowe. Touching on you know, because we were talking about Tyson Fury earlier. You know, I think that was on a Fury undercard.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Isaac Lowe's first loss, and it was a big shock. And, you know, Lopez came out there and really took it to him. And like we always say, you can never, you know, disregard any Mexicans on in an undercard, because they will come out and they will give it their all. And that's one thing that he's not just going to lay down, and he's going to come for Warrington. So it's going to be a good fight. You know, he's ranked 17th, top 20, and he's only got a couple of losses. He's got about 30 wins or whatever it is. He's a good little fighter, and it should be a good main event, I think, as well.
Ebony.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry.
No,
I was going to say, obviously, Ebony Bridges is in a fight as well, a real live fight. She seems to have a bit of back and forth with this girl. I'm not entirely sure of the history, but they've been chirping at each other all week. So
let me tell you a bit of background that I know, because what the Australians, from what I've heard and read from the Australians, they're saying that Ebony Bridges kind of left Australia in under a bit of a shrouded cloud of a cloud of one or two things that kind of went awry. And this is their opinion, right? I'm a big fan of Ebony Bridges. She's a Leeds fan, so you know how much she's already in my good books. And she'd be wearing a Leeds shirt at the weigh-in and stuff before she took all her clothes off, of course. But going back to that,
a Leeds shirt on.
Before that, what color was she wearing?
I don't remember anything before.
What color shirt was she wearing before she took her clothes off? Anyway,
yeah. It's unimportant.
Anyway, what we were talking about, yes. So apparently she had tried to sleep with the trainer of O'Connell, and O'Connell's trainer is married.
Wow.
Yeah. So she tried to apparently.
Wow, that's a little bit of gossip right there.
Yeah. Wow. So allegedly she tried to sleep with O'Connell's trainer. O'Connell's like got her back up already about that, and is also like calling her this and that under the sun, calling her a bit of a floozy stripper. Bit of a stripper, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's more antics to get under her skin because she's fighting her, you know, and there's a bit of tooth and nail. Ebony Bridges has said, you know, O'Connell was one of the only few female fighters from Australia that I looked up to growing up, and I you know, I respected her, and I you know, I think that's what she said, right? So she's kind of a little bit surprised by her comments, because she thinks it's a bit disrespectful. But at the same time, look, it sounds like I still would give it to Ebony Bridges. I think it's kind of set up for her to win, but it sounds like O'Connell's going to give it a good go. So if you want to keep an eye on, I think maybe it might be quite an interesting fight on the undercard. But the weigh-in was definitely interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
I mean, I think more interesting every time.
Expecting a tasty little fight on Saturday between the pair.
Yep, absolutely. And then talking of a tasty little fight, we also have Crawford, who again, you know, kind of let me down in the negotiations once again. That's for another story. But you know, he's fighting Davidavanesyan. We'll be watching it, and I think it'll probably be a straightforward fight for Crawford, given that he's kind of handpicked that fight, as opposed to, you know, negotiations with Errol Spence, which was what everybody wanted. Hopefully that fight will come to fruition at some point. But again, massive fight, massive weekend of boxing. Looking forward to it. And mate, and as far as I'm aware, that's been another episode of Another Round. Oh, one just thing as well. I didn't ask you about everyone you met at the Dillian White.
Oh,
yeah.
Shit, we were about to sign off. Sign off without talking about the boys. Yes. Come on now. Just one last thing. Just while I've got you here, I'll make a quick final comment on the Avanesyan and Crawford fight. I think I'm interested to see how this fight plays out, because this could be a situation where it's a cherry pick gone wrong, because Avanesyan's a really good fighter. Avanesyan's obviously Crawford, there's no doubt, is a special fighter, right? But Avanesyan's a very good fighter in his own right. Yeah. And whenever there's fights that are supposed to be straightforward and they're supposed to be a walk in the park, those fights tend to be the hardest, especially when you're in against a top quality operator who believes in himself. So I'm excited to see how this fight plays out, and I hope that Crawford comes through it, and I hope that we get to see that dream sort of welterweight matchup that all the fans have been salivating for. So hopefully we get to see that. But I think this is a really interesting fight, and I'm excited for it on the weekend. But yes, talking about the people that I met at the White versus Franklin fight, two of the people that I met were great boxers, and Alan the Babbage Savage, man, honestly, dude, I was so excited to see. I actually didn't approach him. I seen him in the lounge. There's a little lounge bit, and I was there, and I seen him, and he was like with a couple of people, and he was chilling, and everybody was going up to him, everybody in the lounge, and I thought, nah, like it didn't feel right, he was like chilling with his missus, trying to have a drink and stuff, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna swerve it, And as I walked out of the arena, who did I walk into? Literally, I walked through the doors, and there he was. He was just stood there on his phone. And as I walked past him, I just felt like I had to say to him, "Listen, man, I've seen pretty much all of your fights, and I think you're a fantastic fighter." And he was really, really nice. He gave me a few minutes of his time. We had a little chat, and he was kind enough to take a picture with me. And he was a great. He was really gracious with his time, and I really appreciated that. And talking about someone being gracious with their time, I really want to bring this up as well, because AJ gets a real hard time, especially with boxing fans. A lot of boxing fans hate on AJ, because I'm not sure what the reasons are. To be fair, he's won a gold medal for this country, and I know me and you are huge fans of his, but he always seems to get like a hard rap off boxing fans. Yeah. It's because, do you know what it is? I have a theory about this, and I think it's because people are attracted to shitty personalities. Like if you think about it, like, one of the reasons McGregor became so big was because he was like screaming in everyone's faces, and like, people love that. Like, for some reason, people like, if you're like humble and like, quiet, people don't really like that. It's weird. But anyway, that was a little slight tangent.
His personality, it's like he's too nice to be.
That's it. Yeah.
Personality. Because boxing is about being braggadocious, the big I am. They're going back to the Mike Tyson days. The Mike Tyson days.
Ali.
Muhammad Ali. That's the people that get the attention because they have the braggadocious personality.
After the fight, man, he was so gracious with his time. Like, he literally stood there for about 2 hours just talking to all of the fans that came up to him, taking pictures, and not just taking pictures, like having conversations with people. And it must have been so draining because obviously, everyone was like shouting for his attention and everything like that. And, he came over to the section that I was in and was, again, taking pictures and shaking hands and chatting with people. I was one of the people, I shook hands with him and I took a picture with him, and I found him to be really nice, really friendly, really accommodating, and really humble.
Mate, that picture that you put up, this is what's confused me, because that picture you posted, you look taller than him. I can't get my head around it.
It's so bizarre. He took the picture. That's the thing, right?
Is he on are you on a step or something? Or is
no, honestly, I'm just a fucking giant. No, I'm like 6 foot. So like, he's massive as well. Like he is massive. Like he looks. I would like to see Fury just to see that, because you could see Joshua is fucking massive, dude. Like really massive. And no, he took the picture, and I always thought like the reason he takes the selfies himself is because he's so big, right? So that he's got the like, he's got like a selfie stick on the end of his fucking arm, right? So he just takes the pic, and I don't know how that ended up happening, but so many people have said the same thing, that I look like I'm taller than Joshua. I'm not really. They always say don't meet your heroes, and I'm not saying Joshua is a hero of mine. Unfortunately, most of my heroes are dead. But he is literally You know, he's someone I'm a massive fan of in terms of the sport of boxing, and he did not disappoint at all. And he was, I got the feeling from him that he was a great human being.
Oh, I love that, mate. And that's a great way to end, mate. You're a great human being. And that has been another episode of Another Round. Thank you, guys.